Hey guys, this is Kerry, and in this video we're going to try to add some cool style to our Magic 8 Ball app. So let me open up my REPL from last video, and here we go. So last year I programmed it, and this is how the app came out. But this year I always like to challenge myself to improve things. So I looked up this morning some code about creating a fake 3D effect for our Magic 8 Ball, and I think I'd like to give this a try. So this is something programmers do all the time. We look stuff up online and we try to understand it and incorporate it into our code. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look through this, and it does look actually pretty accessible to me. I gave this a read through before and I understand a lot of the code here. That's something you always want to do when you're using code online. Very rarely would you ever want to grab a piece of code that looked very foreign, because it'll be hard to incorporate in. This first part here, I see that we're going to want to put a div with the class of circle into our HTML, copy and paste it, there we go. To turn this into, well, let's look at what it is first. All right, nothing appears because it's just a plain div. To turn this into a Magic 8 Ball, it looks like what they're doing is they're taking the following styles. I'm just going to grab those and copy and paste them. And the reason why I feel comfortable doing this, let's just look at what it turns out to be like first. The reason why I feel comfortable just grabbing and copying and pasting this is because I really understand all of this. For the CSS here, we're selecting the thing with a class of circle, that thing that we just built. We're giving it a height and width that are fixed so that our diameter and so forth are correct. Border radius 50%. If we delete this line, let me show you what it looks like. Border radius is basically what takes it from a square and turns it curved. So I'll put it back. And now we've got that border radius there. It's a perfect circle. For a Magic 8 Ball, instead of making these shades of red, I'm going to make these shades of gray that will turn from light, and I love this, it looks light here, to dark there. So we haven't, I'm bad with the color selector. I mean, you could just go over here and pick shades of gray if that's easier for you. I know a little bit about where these numbers come from. For shades of gray, if they're the same number in all of these, 31, 31, 31, it's always going to be 6 digits. I'll make this one 20, 20, 20. I'll make this one 10, 10, 10. I'll make this one 15, 15, 15. I should get shades of gray that transition from light to dark. Actually, I wish I had gone, 15, 15, 15 is wrong here. I wanted to go 10, 10, 10, so this should be darker. 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 5. Let me see if that looks any better. All right, well, they're very subtle, the shades of gray here, but we're going to continue to work on it, and maybe I could have picked, I don't know, 35, 35, 35, and then 23, 23, 23, and then, sorry. All right, let's see. I'm being a bit of a perfectionist here. I like that a little bit better, actually. That gray looks a little bit lighter to me, which is nice. All right, so next up what we're going to do is, here's a danger of copying and pasting code. I'm just going to grab this code, copy and paste it, throw it over here. Wow, I just ruined my whole page. And if I feel like I need to stick with this, I'm going to have a really big headache the rest of the day trying to debug it. So I'm going to get rid of that. And what's nice about this page, I thought, compared to a lot of other pages, is it doesn't just give you the code, it kind of tells you what it's doing. So this is trying to center the circle in the middle of the page. I'm not going to worry about that because I kind of have some other tricks that I know for centering. So I'm going to skip this part. Now it says, now we'll require one more circle that will be placed inside the main circle. This inner circle will be mainly responsible for producing the desired fake 3D effect. To create the inner circle, we'll be using the before pseudo element. Okay, I kind of understand that. Looking at this picture up here helps me clarify. I see that there's a light circle right here. So I'm just going to grab this and copy and paste it. Let's see how things look. Okay, it didn't ruin everything, which is promising, but also didn't really change anything. I'm expecting to see shades of red because I see shades of red in the background here. We'll review what this means in a second. But it looks like to place it at the center of the circle, we need to add this stuff here to our circle. So that does seem to match what we have here. Now there's a couple of things that we're going to fix. In order to make this a circle, the red piece, we need to give it a border radius. So as I scroll down, it does look like we give it a border radius. This goes in the before things, that's also a circle. And then also we're going to blur it using a filter. This is something that you might have seen on images. Sick. That looks so freaking cool. All right, I also want this to be black, so I'm going to go with my shades of black here. It does look like that was a lighter shade of red than any of the other ones that I encountered before. So maybe I'll do 46, 46, 46 for a lighter shade of gray. Maybe this is like my mid one, 23, 23, 23, and you can just select these, or you can do what I'm doing and just make them the same. And then maybe this is our second darkest, so 12, 12, 12. Pretty cool. I like the way that looks. Nice. All right, so what the before and then what we're going to see next is the after elements are. Oftentimes when you're designing a web page, you may want to put elements before or after things. Like maybe I want to put a little emoji star here and star here. One way of doing that is to change the HTML. Another way to do that is to create these elements by using the CSS. And we're not going to do this too much. But what the before element would do is it'd be like a little thing that happens before. So here what they're saying is put a blank thing before. Make the height and width of that a little less than the height and width before. That's why it's a circle. And then having these features that we just saw will allow us to put a circle here. Now we also had to add these lines of code so that that would be centered there. But I'm not so good with display flex. That's not a tool we've talked about. So actually we're going to turn this into a grid display, and it shouldn't change anything. But whenever we do a grid display, we're going to make grid template columns. And here we'll just have one column, because our whole circle will just have one column and one row. So I'll do auto for this, and grid template rows, I think I'll do the same thing. I'll just make it auto. This creates a 1x1 grid that we're going to place that circle in the center of. So I also need to always build my grid areas when I do this. This is that text version of your grid. We just have one area, so I'm going to call it main. So we've got one column, one row, making one cell the main cell. I'm going to make the grid area here. This should take up the main cell. I hope this doesn't change anything. Okay, it changes it a little bit, but that looks pretty good to me. Next up, continuing on with our little cheat sheet here, it looks like, hold on, we are still missing one thing, the drop shadow. Looking up here at the goal, that's going to be this shadow here. This is going to be the after element, because it's a small element that appears after our main element. So I'm going to use this CSS code. I'm going to go in here, copy and paste it. So it's creating an element after our circle with no content in it. And then a couple of other features that we should recognize mostly. The height is going to be 60 pixels. That makes sense. It's a little less than what we had before. The border radius here is 50%, so it's like an oval. That makes sense. It's got like a black background. The reason why it's an oval instead of a circle is because the height is less than the width. The background is black and translucent. That's why it looks like that. So most of the stuff we understand. It's got a blur on it. Let's refresh things here. Oh wow, it really messed up our shadow. So I'm going to keep reading here. It looks like we have to give our main div, which is the circle div, a position of relative. So I'm going to copy and paste that and add this here. Sick. Our shadow looks great. All right, so there's just a couple of things to finish up now, I think, which is to make it actually part of our app. So I'm going to go over to the HTML. Well, before we do that, let's just ask it a question. Will I be happy on break? Shake the 8-ball. Currently the answer, oh, no guaranteed, wonderful. Currently the answer is appearing up here. I'm going to take that answer field and I'm going to move it into the div here. I'm also going to put some sample text in there to help me see things. So now the answer field should be inside of the circle, the same way the elements are organized here. Let's see if this works better. Okay, so sample text is appearing up here in the corner. How can we fix that? I'm going to go over here, and I think I need to style my answer field. So I'm going to select it using its ID. I'm going to give it a temporary background of red. I'm going to give it a temporary color of white for the font. Maybe not temporary, because I don't know, with a black background, it might have to be white. I'm also going to say that, well, let's just refresh this. Okay, that's how that is. I'm also going to say that I would like this answer field to occupy that same grid area main that the center shadow of our circle was occupying. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to say the grid area for this should also be that one cell there. So we're putting both of them inside of the cell. I notice that my before element is going on top of my paragraph here. So I'm going to use a CSS style that we haven't used before, which will make this get priority. So when you have things layered on top of each other, like both this and the blur are in the main area, you can say z index equals a big number like 99, and that will put this on top of this. Whichever has the higher z index will go on top. I'm also going to do a text align center for this so that that text appears in the center. I'm also going to change the font size of this to, I don't know, 40 pixels. And now we've got a nice font there. I'm going to delete the background because I don't need it to be red anymore. And we've got our nice sample text there. Looking pretty good, like a magic 8-ball. I'm going to go over here now and I'm going to get rid of the inner HTML sample text. So right now it starts off with a blank 8-ball, and I'll type my question, will I be happy over break? Shake the 8-ball, no guaranteed. Oh, that's very nice. Shake it again, maybe. And this is starting to look like a pretty complete app to me. There's a couple of other things that we might want to do. Maybe we want to take some stylistic ideas from here and kind of package it together. So let me do that. In order to package this whole group together, we're going to take everything, all of this stuff from the title down to the magic 8-ball, and we're going to put that inside of a div. I'm going to give this a class of content. Let's see if this is an easy fix. And then I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to take content. I'm going to make it have a background of red temporary to like see what it looks like. Okay, that looks terrible. I'm going to make it have a width of, I don't know, maybe 600 pixels. Let's see how that looks. A little bit too large, 500 pixels. Cool, I think that's looking a little bit better. Let's do a text align center on all of this stuff. That shifts that stuff over, but our circle still isn't shifted. To shift that circle, I could use a trick that we've used before. I also noticed that we're missing this section at the bottom. So let me add some padding to this. Let me start with 10 pixels all around. So that will give us some space in our app. But I also specifically need some padding on the bottom to include this. So let's do padding bottom equals to, I don't know, 90 pixels. Okay, unfortunately that's covering up the blur. So I'm going to get rid of this z-index -1 from the blur. I think that's what was hiding it behind it. And now it's on top because now the z-index of -1, if 99 puts something on top, then that -1 that I copied and pasted before was hiding it behind. I'm also going to, let's see, I feel like our circle needs a little bit of room to breathe. So I'm going to take our button and I'm going to give it some margin on the bottom, which should create some space between the button and the circle. That looks better. And now to center that circle, let's just see if I can do this really quick. I'm going to take the circle div and I'm going to put it inside of a div with the class of centerer. That's not even a word. /div there. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do dot centerer text align center. Let's see if that works. No luck there. And I think it's actually this position absolute and this position relative that mess things up a little bit. Maybe if I do, oh, here we go. I've got an idea. Maybe if I go to the circle and I try to do it like almost like when we center an image, we do like a margin auto. Maybe that will work. There we go. Margin auto is the trick. I wonder if we even needed that div centerer, but I'm just going to leave it for now because we've got it. And I'm going to use that same trick to center the whole thing next. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to take everything that was in content. Let's just see if we can do this actually. Let me do content margin auto. I wonder if this will work. Oh, hey, we didn't even have to do that trick. It just centers it. Perfect. All right, now just keeping things really simple here, I'm going to remake the background of this white. And I'm going to make the background for the whole web page black. All right. Cool, this is a decent looking app. I'm going to make font family. I like to go sans serif here if I'm not using a Google font. I think that looks a little bit better. Yeah, I think this is a good place to end. Let's just check to see if it works. Will 2020 be a good year? Shake the magic 8-ball? Yes, definitely. That's what we like to read. All right, so that was a lot of styling, but what I wanted to highlight in this video is this idea of how to copy and paste effectively and how to really interact with the code you copy and paste. I think I went a bit quick with the CSS, but it's 10:36 and I've got to teach you guys in 4 minutes, so I was a little bit rushed. See you soon. Bye.